I'm Brittany Lewis with Forbes Breaking News. Representative Alexandria Ocasio Cortez reacted to the Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade at a town hall on Wednesday. The New York Democrat voiced her outrage over the court ending the right to abortion and took particular aim at Justice Clarence Thomas. She pointed to controversy surrounding his wife, Ginny Thomas, who was under investigation for possible participation in the planning of January 6th. The New York Democrat called for the justice to be impeached. She also reacted to other recent rulings by the court this week and said the court has, quote, delegitimized itself. She urged Democrats to end the filibuster and expand the court, though some moderates have expressed skepticism with that approach. Take a listen for more.
So that is the recap on the January 6 hearings. I'm happy to take some of your questions on that during the Q&A. But because so much has been going on, we're just going to move straight into the Supreme Court decision on Roe v. Wade, as well as many other decisions that came out of the Supreme Court in the last couple of days, including the Supreme Court's decision to overturn our concealed carry laws in the state of New York, and their decision on Roe v. Wade. Now, I think I have made myself very clear my view and what's going on here. And it's that while, yes, we must do everything that we can to codify, which means to pass into law, to reinstate via law, Roe v. Wade and a woman and any person that could become pregnant, their right to choose, everybody's right to choose, and everybody's right to privacy, by the way, because what Roe v. Wade established was not just the right to choice, but the right to privacy. And that has implications, as Clarence Thomas mentioned in his opinion, that has implications for marriage equality. It has implications for the right to contraception, and it has implications for interracial marriage as well, I believe. And I think we see that. Not only do I believe that, but Clarence Thomas specifically named several of these precedents that he believes should be overturned. And that is also on the basis, in part, of overturning Roe v. Wade. And so I think that what we see here is a very, very scary moment in our democracy. And I think what I have come out in favor for is really exploring every single tool in our arsenal in order to check the gross overreach and abuse of authority by the Supreme Court of the United States. I mean, there are so many places to go here because of the depth of misconduct and the depth of abuse of power coming out of the Supreme Court of the United States. First and foremost, speaking of January 6th, you have a president that has been impeached twice, who named 3 members of this court, nearly all of whom lied, or as Senators Manchin and Collins, 2 conservative members of the United States Senate, saying that they were actively misled by members of the Supreme Court when they were nominees in order to secure a lifetime appointment to the Supreme Court. So you have several members of the Supreme Court who misled and lied. And I use the word lie, not just because Roe v. Wade was overturned and they said that it was established precedent, but because during their confirmation hearings, these Supreme Court justices said that Roe v. Wade was settled precedent, that it was accepted as law. And in their opinion, they stated they did not provide they didn't rely on technicalities. They said that Roe was illegitimate and always has been illegitimate since the date of its ruling. And that dramatic contrast between those 2 statements, I believe, highlights the depth of what Manchin and Collins will call misleading, I will call lying. But also, even beyond that, when we look at what happened just on Monday, the Supreme Court voted to allow teachers and leaders organizing and leading students in Christian prayer and in prayer in schools. And I'm going to say Christian prayer because I do not believe that if this case arose with a Jewish teacher or a Muslim teacher or a teacher of any other faith, I have my suspicions that the Supreme Court would reach the same conclusions. I do believe that there is an absolute religious bias in the court that is very obvious for many who see. And what we saw with Gorsuch, and I believe that Gorsuch, and many I think would argue that Gorsuch actively lied in that opinion that he issued in that ruling as well, because he called this prayer a small, quiet prayer. But we know in documents provided by the court itself in the dissenting opinion, there are photographs of this prayer on the 50-yard line of a school, and it is huge. It is not a small, discrete little event. And this is also contributes to environments, and what the Supreme Court is essentially allowing are environments of exclusion and intimidation for people of faiths, of all kinds of faiths. And so, not to mention, I believe, a core violation of the separation of church and state. But what we have here is a rogue court. You have several members who you have several members on the court who very clearly, very obviously misled members of the United States Senate in order to secure a lifetime nomination to the court. You have justices such as Clarence Thomas, whose family is under active investigation by Congress, whose wife was an active participant in the January 6th insurrection activities, and who he himself failed to disclose his family's income from right-wing political organizations for years. And then he used his seat on the Supreme Court in order to prevent critical documents from January 6th that could potentially implicate his wife from reaching investigators in Congress. What we have here is a court that has debased and delegitimized itself. They have delegitimized itself in the lunacy of their rulings, because on Thursday they ruled that we can violate states' rights in order to preserve constitutional rights. And that was their argument for overturning New York's concealed carry gun laws. And then, so they did that on Thursday. And then on Friday, they ruled that you can violate a person's constitutional right in order to uphold a quote unquote state right. Except the problem with that is that your right to your bodily autonomy is an inalienable right. It does not belong to the state. It does not belong to a church. It does not belong to a politician. It belongs to you. Your inalienable right and the right of the individuals and those inalienable rights of the individual here in the United States triumphs above all. And so I will tell you as your Congresswoman that I believe and will continue to protect and do everything that I can to protect your inalienable right to bodily autonomy, no matter your gender, no matter your background, no matter your identity. And that is what we have been doing. So I have proposed a long suite of actions that I believe that we can take or begin to explore taking right now, both individually, but also as a party. And I would like to tell you all right now that a lot of people say, well, what can I do? A lot of people are telling you to vote. I do believe that you should vote. In this town hall, in my official capacity, I'm not allowed to campaign. I can't tell you who to vote for, but I do think that it's very important to vote in our November elections. But beyond that, what can we do right now? Well, I think you all individually, we can talk about what we can do as a party and then what the power you all have as individuals. I will say on a policy response, we need to be working on repealing the Hyde Amendment in Congress right now. I am proud to say that we have successfully started to take the steps to repeal the Hyde Amendment. And with the Hyde Amendment, repealing the Hyde Amendment will allow the federal government to invest in access to reproductive care in any place that has federal jurisdiction, including places with federal jurisdiction in red states. I have brought up, for example, the prospects of increasing abortion access on federal lands in red states. There are workarounds around this. We can start exploring this now. We can start working on what the scaffolding and the details of this would look like now. And the actual deep investment would be allowed if we repealed the Hyde Amendment. The Hyde Amendment has been in place for a very long time, and it basically prohibits the federal government from investing dollars into reproductive justice and care and reproductive health care for especially low-income people in the United States. And so we need to be repealing the Hyde Amendment. I believe that the president must really put on the table entertaining of expansion of the Supreme Court. The last time the Supreme Court was expanded was during the 1800s. The reason we have 9 Supreme Court justices was because at the time there were 9 circuit courts. We have added since then, in the over 100 years since then, we have added 4 more circuit courts. So we now have 13 circuit courts, but still just 9 Supreme Court justices. I believe the President of the United States should be working to expand the court. I believe that he should come out in favor of expanding the court. I believe that he should come out strongly in favor of either amending or abolishing the United States Senate filibuster. Now, before anyone tells me, oh, but Representative Ocasio, we don't have the votes for that. There's no way we can do it. What is the point in trying? What is the point in talking about it? We don't have the Senate votes to do that, so don't even bother. Well, here's why I say that the President of the United States should come out in favor of these positions. It's because why do you think we don't have the votes for it? I believe that when the president or any president, it's not a personal thing, but when the president doesn't state a position, when, a lot of other people don't state positions on certain issues, it's a lot easier to get away with opposing these very critical pro-democracy reforms. And so when the president does not come out and does not really state a declarative position on the filibuster, when he does not state a declarative position on court expansion, he is essentially putting his foot off the gas. And I believe that right now is a pedal to the metal moment. We need to be entertaining and putting everything on the table. And even if there are multiple considerations, we should not be actively ruling out any single option right now when it comes to reestablishing people's bodily autonomy in the United States of America. So I believe that the president should come out in favor, forcefully in favor of expanding the Supreme Court. I believe that the president should forcefully come out in favor of abolishing the Senate filibuster. Those 2 actions dramatically increase political pressure and makes it much harder to resist. I think that we need a whip count, an active whip count on which senators are in favor of amending or abolishing the filibuster. And we need to have that whip count updated and needs to be up and center, because while we can elect 2 more senators in order to overcome Manchin and Sinema, I will be the one to tell you honestly and directly that we need an actual whip count on and we need to really truly confirm that there actually only are 2 senators that are resisting changes to the filibuster, because we have not heard from everybody yet. And what I don't want is for us to go through all of this work and for someone who has kind of been on the sidelines to come out and try to obstruct that progress again. So I believe that the president should come out forcefully in favor of abolishing the filibuster. I believe that we should be exploring opening clinics on federal lands, particularly if we are able to repeal the Hyde Amendment this year, as well as many, many, many other actions. I personally believe that Clarence Thomas should be impeached beyond a shadow of a doubt. I am astonished that this is a position that is in any way controversial to anyone. The degree and extent of misconduct that Clarence Thomas alone, in addition to several of his colleagues, have participated and engaged in, is foundationally delegitimizing to the Supreme Court. And it is our responsibility, our constitutional duty to rein them in. So that's my position there. And then we'll move